once again coming at you with some Master Coliseum replays. This series has been talked about quite a bit amongst the community, so I'm happy to finally be able to cast it. On the bottom right, we do have Team Basilisks, or just Basilisks, Serral. And on the top left, we do have Onside Gaming's Maru, who is sending out an SCV, but it is going to be for that forward 2 racks, or 3 racks. It could still actually even be a 1 racks, but it is a forward position. So he is into that type of build order. At this point, TvZ, all of the Terrans seem to be only throwing this in. Bjorn has stopped doing the forward 2 racks 100% of his games. And now everyone just kind of throws it in to a best of 3, best of 5, whatever. This is a best of 3. It is still the round robin stage, so regardless of who wins or loses, it just influences their positioning in the group. Doesn't necessarily mean they're knocked out. Last few times that Serral and Maru have played, they've not exactly been the bangers that people have wanted. At least once it was, and that's fun. Then many more times it was Maru coming into the series worse than Serral, just straight up worse. And exactly both players' peak form, Serral had proven to be just generally better. I would like to say that Serral has shown weakness since then because he lost to Clem, but that's not really why he lost to Clem. Clem just looked pretty freaking amazing. So Serral is still seen as the world's best. Basically, every single player agrees, so it's not just caster bias. The only player who didn't was Dark, and because Dark is cool and full of swagger. But everyone else, including Maru, agreed that Serral was the best in the world. And he is still also seen, I believe, as the best in ZVT. Now, that kind of sometimes maybe could be arguable if Raynor is in his absolutely top form. Because that kid is freaking good when he is. But more so, it's Raynor kind of peaking, I guess, is still the word to use there. Whereas Serral is just very consistently the best, the most intimidating player to go up against. In all the matchups, every single one. The only one being slightly weak, as in not as good as the other ones, ZVZ. So Maru, his best matchup still, as I was saying, I think is TVT, but obviously we know a lot of his TVZs go well for him. And we always hope that it is both players playing at their absolute highest skill level when they finally face off against each other. So far, so good for Maru, who already got a drone kill, denied the extractor from being taken. Serral has confirmed that forward racks and then just sent the Overlord as far away as possible so that some cheeky Marines that can be produced instead of the add-ons wouldn't go kill him. That's a second drone killed, and I don't want to overhype this. This is already Maru winning the game. Seriously though, guys, like that's actually very bad for Serral. It's actually not good at all for any Zerg player, I would say, because most of the time, even with a forward 2 racks, right, this isn't only a single Reaper 1 racks expand, but the damage was done by a single Reaper. But yeah, even if it was 3 Reapers trying to gun for the drone line, usually the Zerg players are really good about not letting the drones die. They sometimes have difficulty getting that 3rd drone over to the 3rd in time. That could be a problem amongst the top tier Zergs. Oh, here we go, Reaper's gonna get surrounded. The actual drone death, not too common. At the very least, Serral will go ahead and clean this up, but seriously, 2 drones down and then having to produce this many lings to ensure that he actually cuts all the Reapers down. Off the map they go. That's really not a super great start for Serral, but to actually not overhype things. Obviously, a lot of things can still change the way this game plays. But Maru so far is absolutely kicking butt, man. Just denies the Overlord from seeing, I think, anything in the main. Oh, okay, no, he didn't. But he did manage to kill it, which is still good news. But it did see the 3rd CC. So I'd still say that Maru was performing very well, because Serral did not necessarily anticipate that Overlord dying, was a little bit late to producing the Overlord to compensate. And Maru is continuing on with some really cool moves. So far, a very normal opener. Oh, no, that's actually totally normal opener still. Sorry, my bad. I thought that was a second factory. That's his first one coming down, because he did grab a 3cc first. But he's going to be going into a 2-1-1, so there is that. Yeah, I thought he was doing some cool second factory thing. Because that was the thing we did, I speak for the entire Tan race. 2 years ago? Do you guys remember when Cure was doing a lot of fast second factory mass Widowmine drops? That was cool. That was fun. But it's not that. It's just going to a 2-1-1. This is something that Serral will probably figure out based on a number of Marines in the 3rd CC. Not seeing any other technology. Most wary of it, I would say. If it was a 4 racks, there could be some really good deception going on as far as hiding the true number of Marines. I'd say you'd emphasize that before the 3rd CC. Kind of a cheesy way of playing. Well, this is straight up macro. And Serral is now trying to bust out more drones. 1-1 upgrades for both parties on the way. But Maru not only grabbed a fast 3rd CC, but very fast engineering base as well. So his upgrades, pretty freaking good. Gonna be on top of him too with a very well-timed armory. 4th base on the way for Serral. Plenty of creep spread being slapped down. This is hard lead. And one of the toughest things for Zerg players, including Serral, has been defending this base. If the Terran gets tanks on top of this, probably inappropriate sponsorship, actually, this isn't, just ignore that. If he gets on top of this ledge, then we have seen Zerg players have extreme difficulty handling it. We've also seen Terra players successfully blitz this base. Literally just, they do see the tanks up there, but then they run their Marines forward and just kill the hatchet before the Zerg can respond. Serral himself a victim to that in Atlanta against Beyond. And Beyond was also, I think, 2-basing, if I remember correctly. Bit different, bit different. Maru's medevacs are finally out, so he can get on the map a little bit. Serral checking around exactly for that, also looking for potential run-by, something that Maru is pretty much on top on. These Marines will die, but for the greater good. These are 1-1 Marines with combat shields, so Serral has to be very careful about using only Lings against this, and he'll be more than careful. He'll actually just go ahead and make a solid number of Banelings, ensuring that they cannot be focus fired. All combined together, this is not something that Maru can truly take on, but if he could snipe a Queen or catch a couple of Banelings, that would be cool. Not even gonna try it. Quick 4th CC coming down, 7 minutes here. We are looking at a prolonged TvZ. With the Terran typically setting the tone, there is a chance that the Zerg player is going for a low econ Ling Baneling bust, but that is not the case here. We have been seeing that more versus Clem in particular, but I don't think Serral's really been doing it, and I don't think it's been done versus Maru. So 70 drones, you know, is clearly going to add up to more, especially as the 5th base is taken. It was if he was at 60, and I would be a little worried for Maru, like, but nah, macro v macro. Not the highest technology build that Serral has ever done, for sure. He has tried to get away with a Roach Baneling style into very fast hive, but not this case here. He's going to go for faster burrow, and we've been seeing more of this from the Zerg players across the board. Not a, well, I guess this would be kind of a cool idea at minute 10 or 15 or something, but even as fast as, I believe, 7 minutes. Or maybe even faster for Raynor. And then trying to really Healy punish the Terran chasing after the Zerg forces, not just looking for the gotcha. He was slightly off of creep and he didn't scan. Yuck, yuck. No, like actually just trying to run away from the Terran forces and not be chased after, so you burrow some Banelings. These Marines are protected a little bit by a couple of Widow Mines, but they got to be very careful. Wait, so does Serral, though. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Serral not as cautious as he should have been. Probably figured the Baneling was going to go ahead and explode on that Widow Mine, stop it from firing. He was wrong. All those Banelings went down to a single Widow Mine. Ultimately pushes Maru away, but so far, Serral has not had the best CVT of his life, losing some drones in the early game, being forced to make those Lings. Like, you know, appropriately delayed, but still delayed, I guess, 3rd hatch because of the opener from Maru. Supply blocked, although it's only for a couple of seconds. Nonetheless, I mean, we're just talking about the tiny imperfections that can add up because Maru hasn't really had so many himself. Not that I've noticed, anyway. Although he is now losing a couple of SCVs. Planetary finally finishes up, and that's what Maru was waiting for. So finally a mistake on the side of Maru, I guess. Drop going to be denied thanks to some quick Ling repositioning. Lings and Banelings on the left stop Maru from finding any success over there. 2-2 almost done for Serral. Thankfully, because Maru's is already done. His 3-3 a little delayed as he's focused elsewhere. There we go. Very small delay there. A little bit of a split, actually, as he realizes it's mostly Banelings. The Ling's not able to get us around as there weren't enough of them and their upgrades weren't quite done. So that was a really nice split-second decision. Once again, going for the split-second decision. A really top-tier play from Maru. Drilling Clods is almost done. Marauders have been added in, adding a kind of secondary force almost. Another way that Serral has to accommodate for taking on the Terran forces. Very annoying indeed. Marines picked up, Marauders left on the ground, Banelings wasting their lives. Back onto the ground, the Marines go to help the Marauders that were left there. I mean, that was actually a really sick sequence of events. I can't, I'm actually a little flabbergasted, to be honest with you. Maru, a lot of the times, will play some of the most solid TvZ. So everything just deserves a kind of like a head nod, you know? Okay, well that's a lot of Baneling damage, but Maru still has supply. But when Maru is feeling good, and he said this, when he's feeling good and he feels like his hands are as fast as his brain, he will go for this more mass bio play, multitasking play, and have even cooler micro moments than Clem does. And that is him right now against Serral. Hot diggity damn. Successfully escaping with most of his army around that little curve, always threatening on the left side with another ball of bio. Fourth base has been completed. Extra command centers on the way. More starports as well. Ghost Academy. And actually starting to add on a little bit of tank production too, as he does have a second factory. So he might eventually transition into a more of a defensive style of Terran, but he has been knocking out of the park on this oppressive Terran force. Now, Serral, not trying to make him sound like he's just losing the games the entire time, he is surviving. It's totally fine. But in a time in which Serral is usually finding his groove and really finding the Terran player not microing correctly, not paying attention, not defending a run-by successfully, instead it seems like he's more so keeping his head above water. And Maru not even actually going to use the tank production to stay at home. He's actually bringing it forward, using it to anchor the push. Again, another factor that Serral has to accommodate for when he does take the engagements. I mean, when it's Woodamine Marine, that's it. That's the way you engage. Until the Marauders get added on, okay, now I got to consider that. Now suddenly a tank is back there that I got to consider that. It is continuing to unfold here in Maru's favor as now Liberators join in on the fray. Now the Queens had already been pulled to the front, so that's not the worst news ever, but still very annoying as those Queens will give up some of their lives to help handle this, but it is handled actually. Maru perhaps getting a little too overeager, was on a lot of creep. Serral had identified that the entire force of Terran was on that side, brought his entire army over to that side as well, and finally gets, I would say, his best engagement yet. And with that engagement, now says that he feels comfortable being out on the map, has his own little hit squad over to the left side, wary of Woodamine's bringing an Overseer. His hive is done, his upgrades are on the way, Adrunic lands as well, emphasizing missile over melee, and the Viper is going to come in very nicely for abducting maybe some of the tanks, if that is the continued focus. It's not, we know that. But then also some Parasitic Bomb and Abducts on the air units. Abducts for Liberators, Parasitic Bomb on the Medivacs. Suddenly the Terran realizes they're actually overstimming. It can go very wrong very fast. So far, Medivac count really solid at 6. And then he does have 3 starports. Don't forget that. His production is already completely set up. Both players not really able to gain that much of a bang. It's been an action-packed TvZ. Serral finally getting some say onto the map, also replacing a lot of that creep spread, so I'd say it's a solid position. Of course, he also gets up to 6 bases, thanks to this one in the middle. And he probably could grab towards a 7th, if that would be now the most vulnerable one. And actually, Maru is even looking for it. Not going to find it. You know what he's going to find, though? Zerg army circumventing his own armies. Heading towards that 3rd. The most vulnerable base is an orbital. Does also mean it can lift, though, and it looks like Maru just simply does not care to use the micro to save those SCVs. Your goners, I'm going to focus elsewhere. And he was focusing on killing the hatchery of Serral. Little tit for tat. You know, one hatchery dies, within 12 SCVs die. It probably even. I don't want to do the math right now. But more even than it could have been. And the drop will continue. Natural base under fire, more drones going down, and there's being a little bit of an annoyance as we have Maru now focusing the real engagement over onto that right side. Serral does have an army, but I think a Viper just got popped. Queens have gotten popped as well, and once again, Maru a little deep on the creep is forced to back away against the Banelings. Woodamine's popping off. Liberator's trying to help out. Lots of toughness in this army, as that was a lot of Marauders and Ghosts, so while the Marines definitely went down there, I'm not sure the Banelings were actually cost efficient. Not that Banelings really ever are, I suppose. They are suicidal, but that maybe was cooler than it looked for the Terran, I guess is the best way to put it. You see all the Banelings explode on the Terran force, and they're like, oh, big soft, and then actually a lot of that army, a lot of the more expensive, slow-building army at the very least, has survived. And of course, primarily talking about the Ghosts. Ghost count getting higher does get scarier, even though Serral is not on. Oh, fungal from behind. even though Serral is not dependent on tier 3 units. A really nice fungal from behind. The Vipers come with the rest of the army to actually capitalize on that, and Maru is going to be forced to disengage. Another great engagement from Serral. He does also have a run-by that did the SCV damage, I suppose, but at the end of the day, a bit of a wash. Maru dipped down in supply, but Serral was right behind him. And again, Maru kept a lot of his expensive, slow-building army alive. Ghosts, primarily. Medevac still alive, too. Although very injured. Liberators now popping out 4 at a time. 5 base versus 6 going on 7. Did I count that incorrectly earlier? I think I did, but you know what I meant. And that 7th is in the bottom left. Now, if Maru did send a drop out, it would be vulnerable. But right now, Maru just going to send a little bit of a force out to try and control the creep spread, stop it from reaching the halfway point, which can happen pretty quickly on a map like this. Time to skedaddle. Get the heck out of there. With the presence of creep spread, Zerg map control, kind of, infestors, vipers, either spellcasters are here. It would make a lot of sense for Maru to take a more defensive posture, something that I said he could have been doing if he had just completely moved over into tanks. He literally added, like, 1. I think that was literally just the 1. Well, now he's going to do it. Really playing the defensive Terran style with the slow branching out, the continued expansion. So it's a bit slower, it's a bit more cautious. It will take into account the infestor burrow at any given time. And it's about trying to strangle the Zerg player. And Serral not going to be caught just running into the army over and over and over again. Finds that angle on the 3rd base yet again. Just because a couple of SCVs and 3rd, or, lifts off. This is not necessarily the most important base to crack, but it is that potential domino that tips everything else over. So the Terran player can kind of react to this calmly, and that's important that they do react to it calmly, I suppose. But as far as needing to protect it with the full might of your army, I don't think it's quite it. I mean, you want to be defending this base that you can also fall back to in case you bite off more than you can chew, while also pressuring this base and thus this base to the top right of Serral. It's going to be far more effective. And there is that, again, kind of slower siege hop. Now, I was thinking more so with planetaries and tanks, but Liberators, also siege units. Serral going to take what he can get, which is going to run by into that 3rd. The SCVs had just transferred there, so many of them are going to go down. Liberator's not all that great defending crackling run-bys, but again, it's like, 19 SCVs, it's a chunk of change, but Maru still has plenty of extra bases. Should be able to take this top right base. He's successfully cut Serral off from the top half of the map, basically. This base for Maru to the left, spotted by Serral with the burrowed ling, would be a little tougher for Maru to gain. Just because he would be really splitting the map, his forces from the very far right to the very far left, where a little more consolidation to the right side. And that 3rd base is like the canary in the coal mine, I suppose. Actually, he is going to try and move over to the left side. Now, that's still, my point is still the same, though, which is like now, if he does try to take this top right base and this left base over here, he is going to be trying to move his army, which is slower, naturally, against the Zerg, across the extremes. But he is going to find another base to harass, to aggress on, and Serral does have to take that seriously, too, of course. It is it's a mirroring act, I suppose, right? You take on the left side, I take you on the right side. But now the right side for Maru does have planetaries, so the cracklings will not be nearly as intimidating. A bigger force of, let's say, like crackling, a couple of Hydras, maybe a couple of Ultras, which I don't think he's ever gotten, actually, might be able to break these bases, but Serral is fully intent trying to defend the left side. He has rebuilt his base off to the right, and would probably try and take this base again eventually if Maru did stay on this left side. And that's certainly what Maru is doing. Holy shit, man, that is 14 Liberators. I'm not sure Serral expected that many. I certainly didn't. Absolutely 0 tanks still. And the abducts are going to have to come out, right? Sure, yeah, definitely. But you have to have so many Vipers in response to this. Or you have to be very patient about how much you abduct, right? Abducts, go back and soak up. Abduct, go back and soak up. It's a depth of Liberators, man. A lot of them are getting abducted. I think that was a microbial shroud right there to try and help out, which is interesting, I assume, on purpose. Did it help? Maybe. I guess, I mean, it's definitely something you should be throwing down if you're trying to break a Liberator siege line. I just never really... we usually talk about Microbial Shroud only for reverse carrier purposes, basically. But, yeah, that does make sense. Successful break from Serral. That was 14 Liberators, down to 5, 4 Vipers, full on juice. Did end up contributing enough with the help of the Hydra shooting up, of course, to actually break that. And perhaps Mass Liberator isn't the perfect army? Maybe. We'll see. I'm sure we'll get a second parter very, very soon, as we still have 4 Liberators being produced. They are going to be protected by the Ghost, right? So, of course, Liberators, okay, we'll also get something that flies. Let's get Corruptors. Doesn't really work out when the Corruptors run face first into Ghost Snipes. So, it would be so easy. It'd be so nice if Maru didn't get Ghosts, or didn't have the control that he has. Because then Liberators just having Corruptors A move on top of them, that would just be so great. But that's not high-level TvZ. So Abducts are going to have to be the way to go. The Microbial Shroud on the ground's a really cool touch. A lot of Hydras, an appropriate number of Hydras. Never get lost in the sauce and not realize you're only down to 5. That would be pretty devastating. And perhaps even some Neural Parasite could be cool. I mean, I am a big fan of the Neural Parasite on the Ghost. Dark's really good at that. But 5 SCVs go down to a little bit of harassment. Maru really doesn't build that many extra command centers, so not even having really an extra one up turn to a planetary, perhaps not even wanting to. There is a benefit of using an orbital, and that's you can lift it. So this orbital right here, for instance, it can be lifted, although probably not. A lot of Hydras. I'm thinking more against crackling run-bys. And another Liberator goes down, but that is a lot of Ghosts that are looking for the opportunity to get those snipes, chase that army down, and Serral is noping all the way back home. We got a little Shark Fester going into scan range at a very unfortunate timing. Was looking for the big fungal on all of these Ghosts. We got 24 Ghosts, guys. But it's not going to happen. It's going to have to try again, evacuate this base, lose the drones, but at the same time, we have SCVs going down as well. Nice crackling run by, going to force the liftoff as well. Serral going to lose the hatchery, and again, if you lose that one, you lose the one at the top right, unless Maru just completely forgets about checking it. More damage to the SCVs, but Maru has a lot of mules to drop. He's got 5 orbitals, well, maybe not a lot. He also has to use them for scans, especially because of the Shark Fester is threatening him. So I'm going to take that back. That's not that many mules. He doesn't have that big of a bank, and really, down to 40 SCVs is becoming a concern, but we're not so different on the Zerg side of things. The Zerg has 13 more drones, but when you consider what Zerg needs as a race, you need more than that, and you want a more than a 1,000 bank. You want to be 5,000, 5,000, and then you're fairly comfortable. But against a defensive Terran with 24 Ghosts, maybe you're not even comfortable then. Serral has reclaimed some of the tempo of this game. But even a little hit squad of injured Marines finding another cancel on a hatchery is a bummer. Serral has that bottom left base that he could send more drones to if he had them. And okay, some of the oversaturation is going over there, but that's the problem. Just not that many workers from both parties. Maru actually replacing his 5 at a time, though, quickly up on the economy again. Just needs to find the mining. The orbitals are becoming more of a problem, actually, as crackling run-bys, mineral-only run-bys are becoming a huge problem in a low econ situation. Not even a planetary here, but I guess it could lift and try again later. And the orbitals will live. That is the best thing. The orbitals will live. They can lift. They're not bothered by it. But the SCVs going down is still a chunk of change. 5 SCVs at a time is an extraordinary cost if Maru's not banking, and he's not. But he did once again send a hit squad of army units down to the bottom left, Raven included. Oh, hello, I didn't even realize you were there. And did destroy a hatchery that Serral does need. So he's going to be playing a bit of whack-a-mole. Serral's going to try and be the mole popping up and saying hi to him. So top right, bottom left, top right, bottom left. Crackling's in the main, distract. Burrow probably going to come to effect too, going to cost him a scan. And Serral is trying to be the peskiest Zerg possible, really avoiding a lot of the main engagements because he knows that this could go poorly. A main engagement could go terribly. There is that. But a main engagement could also go terribly post-engagement. It could look like it's going well enough as he breaks through a base or something, but then the ghost snipes chasing the Zerg retreat down is a real fear. A really big fear. So Serral has to be extraordinarily careful with how he takes the engagement, as he's the Zerg. He's the one that has to give up more of his supply in these engagements and then reinforce. Unless he somehow makes it the best Zerg engagement possible, the most cost-efficient possible, which is possible with spellcasters. It's just really difficult to do. and more rocking run-bys. At this point, it is looking like a game in which it's going to come down to if Serral can take a good enough fight, and he thinks this might be it. Some fungals starting off the fight. We got some microbial shrouds coming down. The ghost not knowing what the hell to do as they're also blinded clouded. Another fungal towards the end, but the supplies are actually going now in favor of Maru as his army just outlasted that of the Zergs. The spellcasting wasn't enough. The DPS was not there, and Maru will push through with a 50 army supply lead and Serral without a bank to remax. He thought that was it. He got a couple of those spells down and then a lot of spells down and thought that might just cut it. But that was a super powerful Terran army. Liberator Siege, bit of a concave, bunch of medevacs still able to heal, and enough units just managed to survive. And that's going to be it. Serral not quite ready to accept defeat, has some Hydras on the field, has some reinforcements on the way, including some more spellcasters, but it is so damn difficult to get to a critical mass against the army that Maru has. He couldn't do it when he was an uneven supply. I don't think he's going to do it now. And he does not want to admit defeat. And he's coming in from multiple angles, but the Queen just got sniped. The Ghosts, even if they don't split, or if they do die, whatever, they're actually still very efficient. Serral can't be using that many Banelings on this. And the Hydras just will not out-DPS the current army either. A real consistency problem. Really need the burst damage. They really do. A couple of Liberators getting caught a little off guard, but it's still... I mean, I absolutely see why Maru is taking this seriously and why Serral has not tapped out. Because if Serral were to get a Chain Fungal with Banelings or, you know, Hydras and a Blinding Cloud, like a perfect combination on this army right here, there's a lot to play with. The Liberators aren't reliable as the only unit left in a base trade, that's for sure. They'd be constantly sieging and re-sieging. So they are being taken down, and there's a couple of abducts too to finally cement the victory as far as Hydra v Liberator, but we still have the huge problem of this Terran force. Medevacs with still plenty of juice, even though we never got Caduceus Reactor. Fortunately not important in this game for Maru. We got SCVs being pulled in as the reinforcements make an appearance, and that is a terrible sign for Serral, who might have been hoping that there were simply no reinforcements to speak of. In fact, there were just a handful of Marine Marauder without medevac support able to take down the majority of Serral's fighting force. Vipers do not count, drones do not count, and Maru, finally, after 27 minutes and a sub-100 supply game, will finally take game number 1. Game number 2 here on Solaris. In the bottom left, we do have Basilisk Serral. In the top right, it is Onside Gaming's Maru. But it's skin of his teeth. Pulling that victory out. Hard to say what Serral could have done exactly better in the engagement that he chose to take. Perhaps there is some argument that maybe he didn't have to take that engagement. You'd really have to go back and look, but he decided that was the moment. And I'm not sure he could have done much better. He slapped down every spell that he could, almost. He was not doing Neural Parasites, but I'm not sure how much a Neural Parasite would have mattered in the heat of that fight. Might have been really important in the beginning if he had EMP'd all the ghosts, but in the heat of it, probably not. So other than that, it was almost, you know, every single thing. And if it wasn't for the damn Terran having those damn medevacs, I actually think that would have been a successful push. I think he would have won out. But at that point, it was a lot about the consistent DPS versus consistent DPS, because a lot of the snipes were negated. The ghosts had to split, then they were pushed forward by a blinding cloud, then they had to back away, and so there weren't that many snipes, considering how many ghosts there were. So it was a lot of just like literally bio ball DPS versus the Hydra DPS and the crackling DPS. And as far as that type of battle goes, you best have a good number of Ling Hydra to try and beat out 3-3 bio underneath medevacs. Even if you have your own 3-3. It's just the way that the units work. So generally, you're going to add in some of that splash, some of that burst damage. That is the Baneling. That is the Corrosive Bile. But we didn't have those in that last game. That can combo with the spellcasters. And then I think you actually wins again. I think he would have. But because Maru was able to get the split, the concave, have his units live, it's a real testament to Terran consistency, I guess. The fact that it still got so freaking low, even though Maru definitely have the better army, is still losing units because Serral would refuse to give up after that. He was run by with Hydras and trying to get the Cracklings and trying to get back to Spellcaster Zone. That was his only hope. I mean, truly impressive game from both players. But I am happy to be wrong, even though I didn't say this. I'm going to admit it now. Coming into this, I was kind of expecting Maru to play more of that defensive turtle style, because that's what he's generally known for when he does win versus Serral, I think. One of their only, like, really epic best ofs, I think, was based a lot on him playing a more defensive style. Especially because that was more meta at the time. And he was the one that was perfecting it. But we've gone past that point, and we've definitely in a time now where that heavy bio emphasis is more of a common way to play in the mid game. So not immediately into 2 factories, but more so quickly into Marauders. And more into a point where even if you do get to 5 or 6 bases as the Terran, you're not necessarily saying, okay, I'm turtling. Like, whoop, I give up. You're still being very active. And Maru was. The only reason he did eventually go, you know what, I'm going to take a chill pill is because I think the Infestors were showing their faces. Or not. They were burrowed. So for me, that's a great change in the meta. No one likes seeing the Super Turtle game, where the Zerg player would eventually pull the trigger and then, oh no, Ghost Snipes. Now the Ghost Snipes can still be a real annoyance, and people can say they're overpowered as much as they want, but there's a lot more precision to the Ghost, because it's usually a very active game. And that's where Ghost can be as hard to use as any other spellcaster. Alright, besides that, we didn't have a 2-Rax, forward 2-Rax from Maru this time, even though it was effective. He has gone into a 1-Rack expand, 3cc, 1-1-1, and then into a very basic Hellion Liberator build. Successfully gets the kill on the Overlord again. This time, Serral not supply blocked. But Serral has a lot of lings racing across the map. What is this little ant trail that I see right now? Those lings looking to circumvent the Hellions, which are clearly being aggressive. That Overlord saw the first 2 pop out, is going to see the next 2 pop out as well, and that really is a good sign for this ling run by working. Now, 2 Hellions have been left at home, but 2 is not enough, especially if they get surrounded. And that will be a good enough surround to kill them, but 2 is just not enough even for a professional. That was a lot of lings. The Liberator does come out, though, and this is a small enough ling run by that Liberator was crucial to the defense. If that was 40 lings, and obviously this is a crackling situation, 1 Liberator ain't nothing. The Hellions also were on the retreat back home, and so Serral just gonna save the 4 lings that he can. I mean, it's tit for tat. 3 SCVs go down, some Hellions go down, but then Serral lost his lings, and then more importantly for a Zerg player, you could say lost his larva for building drones. So the question is, was that exactly worth it? I'm not necessarily sure that it was. Yeah, it wasn't. You combine with the Overlord kill, I suppose. You're talking about a resource loss for Serral. But then again, the whole larva mechanic. Once again, it feels like Maru is doing great against the early game Serral. I don't think his Liberator did anything. Oh, I'm completely wrong. He killed something. Oh, those are the lings. Sorry. Yeah, so I don't think it killed any drones. It's skedaddled. It's going to try again later. 4 Hellions still enough to have the map control. Still enough to defend a 3rd base, as he does get that on location prior to his barracks pumping out that many Marines. Queens separating themselves to get as much creep spread as possible. Maru was really good about denying the creep spread on our last map. That last map can actually get creep spread halfway without even blaming the Terran on that, you know? It's just like, oh, I guess it's a given. But Serral never got halfway in Hardwood, I think. Maybe once, and then Maru pretty quickly cleared up the creep. The creep spread has a little more to go on Solaris, but then also has a lot of different avenues to go. So this avenue might get a lot of creep, this might not. This might be where Maru's planning on hitting, maybe over here. 1-1 upgrades, once again, faster for the Terran. Serral's upgrades not emphasized, it's just that Maru's engineering bay is coming down extremely fast. Change up on the composition by the looks of things. We have seen a little more experimentation from the likes of Lambo, for instance, when it comes to Spire, and we've been more so sprinkling Spire play in on some of the bigger maps, like Radisset, I suppose, but when we see it, not too often. And other than that, I think it's only reserved for a real surprise factor, because honestly, it hasn't looked too good against the solid Terrans, and Serral doesn't seem to be the one to go for it too often. Helene's in a little bit of a distraction as the true Terran force preps itself on the right side. Tank and Liberator included. A couple of anchor units. That will be difficult to dislodge. And not that much creep spread. Only 2 creep tumors to take down. Tank in a wonderful position, protected by the Liberator. This is so freaking annoying. And Serral is a little late to the party. He does not have the Banelings prepared. His Lings were out of position, but now it is time to try and get the best concave or surround possible. Queen's on the front line. Lings preparing for some... Oh, there's plenty of Banelings. I'm wrong. There's plenty of Banelings. They're just preparing to try and come in from a good angle. That is plenty of Banelings with Baneling speed as well, and Maru realizes he has just got to leave. Takes up his units, though, very successfully, and in fact, with the reinforcements coming in after all of the Banelings have expended themselves, we do have a weak point for Serral, a really crucial weak point as well. Only 3 Banelings available, but not going to be focus fired. Oh, wait, AR! Hell! Maru with the micro, 3 Banelings down, but just enough time given to perhaps have enough Banelings left over. No, those are also sniped, and Maru is looking to win game number 2 as fast as possible. Serral forced to admit defeat, pulls the 4th drone away, and that is going to be a solid blow to the Zerg, sometimes even game-ending. I don't know if it'll be here, as Serral desperately tries to hold on, but he has lost so much trying to unsuccessfully defend that 4th base. The good news is he does have 75 drones and a replacement 4th that has a rich Vespian, so really good news there, but can he hold? He's still got some creep spread to work with as it has not been scanned, has not dissipated from where it has been scanned, and we're not talking about a ton of splash on the side of Maru. So Maru very much choosing his moment correctly there. Now the Queen's coming in to try and buy more time, and they're actually winning against some injured Marines as Maru is also distracted. His reinforcements taken care of thanks to this Ling run by. It was an excellent last-second maneuver from Serral while barely holding on the defense. Also making sure to start up his own upgrades, successfully transition over into building Hydras, and both players not going to be getting a easy victory or a fast defeat this time. This could very well go into another long macro game, which Serral still has not had his perfect setup, but even less perfect than last game. Tank's gonna have to be sacrificed, but gets 2 shots. Yeah, 2 shots on the Banelings. And the rest of the Banelings once again taken down by the Marines. I mean, Maru just not going to be dislodged from the right side of the map. Jesus. At the same time, making sure to transition over into, well, further upgrades, adding on Marauders, as well as adding on more command centers, a planetary finishing up on his 4th, and then also another attack to the north side. We've had more tanks than ever here at 9 minutes, 10 minutes than the last game, and they are helping, although these ones a little less so. They siege up to do absolutely nothing. Serral too quick to respond, and Maru making one of his bigger mistakes. It does feel like he was getting a little too fast for his own good, or more appropriately, didn't expect Serral to be as fast after this relentless pummeling that he's been taking. You know, I don't blame Maru for thinking he would have had time to siege up those tanks. But he is just on fire, macro-wise, back at home. Again, extra command centers, all 8 barracks done, Marauders on the way, upgrades completing, although a little late to the armor. In a Ghost Academy, most importantly. Drops threatening the main base. Spork Brawler immediately repositioning. Queen's there, and Maru is not even going to bother, figuring that he can't do anything, and I guess he can't. It's an only Queen defense, but it's all you need if they have all the transfuses. Infestation Pit finally on the way for Serral. Another 5th base is on the way too, but it's actually Maru with 80 SCVs to Serral's 72 drones. Ling's trying to surround this army and are going to be successful in that, but a good evacuation. Hydra is not able to catch up in time, as they do not have Hydra speed. I thought that's what I saw. But I'm a bad judge of that type of thing. So I am correct. Hydra speed still not done, and perhaps straight up forgotten about. That could be an issue going forward, as Hydras were integral to every stage of the last game TvZ, and should be in this game as well. That is so many freaking Queens, though. Who needs Hydras? One medevac does get destroyed. Marines left behind get hit by the Banelings, and Maru now going to try and attack to the north, but Serral had prepared for that, has some units ready to go. Widowmine splashing nicely onto the Banelings, and Serral does need the rest of his army over here ASAP. Fortunately, it is very well timed, just as fast, maybe like the littlest bit slower than Maru right now. But the fact that he is basically on point defensively against Maru is just a testament to how strong Serral is, because Maru is playing damn fast. Good lord. I finally get some time to breathe. Maru taking a 5th base, turning into a planetary. 3-3 has started up. Ghosts are on the way with personal cloaking. I thought this was a bigger squad of units. It is not. That is just 4 Marines running for their lives. Back to the safety of the reinforcements. Would mine drop is something. Better than nothing. Hardly, though. Hardly. No, it wasn't better than nothing, actually. The medevac died. Just kidding. That was a funny mistake. Maru obviously paying more attention to collecting his forces, splitting them again for the 2-pronged attack, and then making sure his macro is on point, so totally fine with that. And Serral has missed the opportunity to stop this 5th base from ever becoming a planetary. A couple of changes are going to confirm the state of the game, I suppose. For the most part, anyway. Back on the offensive, no cancel on the hatchery. A couple of overlords dying and supply blocking Serral, though not by very much. Serral is basically maxed out. Woodamine's popping off. Not good or bad. I guess they could have friendly fired, so the medevacs will successfully escape. 5 drones go down alongside that hatchery, and into the main base we go. Hippity hoppity bippity boppity. The Terran goes back and forth, back and forth. Once again, deciding it's not worth it. Nothing else is happening. The guy must be responding to me. Let's go ahead and skedaddle. Excellent scan. Now, I'm pretty sure that was for the creep spread, but if that was for a predictive infestor scan, then that is freaking amazing. I thought that infestor combo was going to wreck the drop. The drop ultimately is denied, but still, the infestor is being scanned at that timing. Crazy good. +3 attack is done as Maru is forced all the way back home. A couple of Vipers here taking out the medevac healing power, so Maru is forced to completely flee. Back to the safety of some Sim City, though. Again, no planetary on the 3rd, of course, so that could be a weak point for the future. A little bit more of a divisive map, like literally just like your left side, I'm right side, compared to the last map that we were on, but still, speed is in favor of the Zerg, and going now top to bottom as opposed to left or right can still be troublesome for a Terran player. And you got some SAG defense being thrown out, which I absolutely love. The amount of times that the Zerg ground army doesn't kill the missile turrets, it prioritizes the bio instead. For many different reasons. AI, but also like literally when you get a surround. And the Vipers just run over the missile turrets. I think it's worth the missile turrets at least. This is almost a surround on the Terran army, but it's not actually. Like, theoretically it was a surround, but the forces of the Zerg could not combine together to actually slap Maru silly. Because that was almost sick. It's like I saw it, and I realized it wasn't going to be as sick as it was immediately, but I wish it was. But Maru also, I think, realizing that wasn't exactly going to turn into a true surround. Deals to the right, deals to the left. Serral's the one that has to retreat. Fortunately, nothing else happening during that time, so while Serral does overstep a little bit, that is okay, especially because he has recovered financially from the early game, despite a couple of canceled or not canceled hatcheries. He has been lower on the worker counts, but that is more just Maru playing an oddly high number of SCVs than it is Serral being at a deficit. And speaking of, Maru, you know, might want to get rid of some SCVs. A very TY-like situation right now. He was the guy who always went higher SCVs than anyone else. But generally, Terrans do want to stay, I would say even sub 70, actually. Especially in a very not turtle game, when the action is still really going. I mean, both times you want to bank, of course. You want to bank whenever you can possibly get it. But this time, usually, you want to try and overwhelm your opponent and get that momentum and an extra 20 army supply to ensure that you have a better army. I mean, quality-wise, already pretty freaking good for the Terran, but an even bigger army would be great. Here comes maybe a true surround right now as the Lings do try and get this surround on the Ghost in particular, but just a little too oiled up right there. The Ghost managed to slip away underneath the protection of the medevacs, and Serral will not take out this army. He will take out the positioning, however. Maru is definitely the one that took the worst engagement right there. He did not expect to be conquered, I suppose, as off-creep as he was, but he was, and the only thing that we can take away from that was that he did save the Ghosts, which is still a good takeaway. He has plenty of reinforcements coming in, and a very consistent income that, again, is even better than Serral's. Even if he's not muling, it's better. And he might not be. He might be saving a lot of scans, or maybe not saving them, but he's using a lot of them. Another attack in the middle here as the Ghosts are desperate to use the acceleration zone to flee. 3 of them going to get caught by the Lings, who also, of course, get the benefit of the acceleration zone. That base is looking a little vulnerable. That's a decent amount of SimCity to get through to a planetary that might also have both its upgrades. Only high Cicada tracking, actually. No building armor. It's on the way and not done quite yet, so a little less of a defense there. So planetary does get taken down. 19 SCVs too. I believe a command center was either canceled or killed, and that orbital was dangerously close to going down. Awkward situation up to the north side as Maru wants this 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock base. Clocks, am I right? But Serral, not just having a base to block him out, is also mining from it. That is a really bad sign as you consider how long is this game going to go and how much am I going to need those minerals as we start to mine out the map. So at the very least, Maru's going to take out the 6 o'clock and then, also be under attack on his third. Now, this is so much SimCity. And again, a bit of a sacrifice that is worth making if you have to. If you have to let these buildings go, it can be okay. And they both are banking a decent amount of minerals, too. About 2,000 for both of them. More SCV goes down, but again, they had so many to begin with that I guess their most recent loss of about 27 SCVs hasn't hit him as hard. 61 might actually want to be where he... might be where he wants to be, but nope, still making more. And of course, more ghosts, more gooder. And attack on the north side, gonna successfully take back this base, but then at the same time, possibly losing access to the Rich Vespian Geyser. Not necessary at this point in time, but you'll be surprised how quickly the gas is depleted. 18.5 minutes, both players losing access to their initial 2 or 3 bases of gas. And the response is quick to the right, but then again, not taking up to the left. Serral faster to actually taking the base, also has creep grid, of course. And back to droning on it in 2. Trying to just rip each other apart. Trying to, stretch them like a medieval torture machine. Who's going to be successful, though? So many Liberators. Comical number of Liberators, once again. 13 of them with not attack upgrade, but rather +3 armor. And that was their last game. I didn't remark on it, but that has also been making some of the takedowns of the Liberators and the Medivacs a little bit more difficult. Especially because this game, Serral has never gotten up to his +3 attacks. He's still only on 2-2 on missile and melee. That could be a huge problem as well. Drew adrenal glands at either, and he actually did get Hydra Speed. Okay, thank you, but it's still missing upgrades for sure. Adrenal glands is often gotten first in a lot of these late game scenarios, but it has slipped Serral's mind. A mistake we have seen between the two best Zergs in the world, both Serral and Raynor. Well, Dark's in there, I guess, too. And I'm sure he made the same mistake as well. 4 Medivacs at a time, as I guess Maru realizes he is running out of juice. He does not seem to be a big fan of the Caduceus reactor. Big ups to the foreign scene for actually being pretty good about getting that, but I would still say that the adrenal glands is a much more important upgrade to forget. We do now have air attack coming through as well for these Liberators. Loved Serral's usage of his spellcasters in the last game. That Microbial Shroud edition apparently did take down the kill shot from 3-2 from the Liberators. Thanks, chat, for that. So that was really sick. But getting that type of perfect scenario is extremely difficult. Not only the micro of all those spellcasters going down at once is difficult, and kudo to Serral for doing it, but then also in an action-packed game like this, so damn difficult to do every single thing that you need to do. Serral going to deny the top base once again, but then he's also not mining from it, so it's just, no man's land right now. Orbital under fire thanks to a couple of Hydras on the run by, and Maru perhaps caught a little awkwardly in the middle. No, not so much. It was his Liberators, not his army. Not his ground army, anyway. Infestor was seen burrowing, so that was a quick scan and takedown. Both players still with a decent bank, but Maru's is a little bit heftier, at least on the minerals. And certainly enough gas that I don't think that's the problem. About 10,000 resource difference. I never actually looked at it last game. I was too caught up in the action. But that is good for the Terran, no doubt about it. It's not quite insurmountable for the Zerg. Trying to take a good fight here, however, might not actually go too well. I'm a little surprised that Serral is doing to take it. Oh, a fungal on the backside! Oh, that was the crucial ingredient that I was missing. And yet, despite that, once again... Oh, and the tab out happens too. Oh, God. I was looking at that engagement, and I was surprised Serral was taking it because I saw the Liberators still in the sky, which they were till the very, very end. But then I also saw the Ghost coming in without seemingly any retaliation, and I just did not see that freaking Infestor. But it didn't matter. By the time the Infestor fungled the Ghost, there wasn't enough DPS again. The Liberators had done their job, and then some, clearing out Serral's army. Damn, that is such an annoying way to play. And the fact that they have +3 armor, especially against only the +2 missile, is really... You can see that in action, I think. Like 100%, a lot of other Terran players will be going for ship first. So they'll have 1 vehicle armor, maybe. But, it actually depends on how the early game went, actually. But, you know, sometimes you don't see any armor for the air. And so the Hydras do rip through them fairly quickly. Like an engagement like that looks good for Serral because the rest of the Terran force isn't there to protect most of the Liberators. But then his Hydras don't actually kill them that fast. And then there's those ghosts that I was like, well, they're still alive. Like, I don't know about this. Which still did end up being a problem, despite the really sick bundle. Not enough banelings to actually kill him. And no Overseer. Actually, that might have... More ghosts would have went down, but no Overseer, no kill on the Liberators, no Medivacs, and not enough of a bank to remax, so of course Serral does tap out. Really sick game. I am very, very impressed by both players. Love that Maru's bringing out this action-packed style as well. And we'll see what it means for the future of TvZ. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that as one way or the other. I don't think anything's in balance. I'm really wondering what this means for the future of TvZ. Zerg players, primarily Serral. I guess, you know, he's the biggest Zerg player to take down, showing a little bit of difficulty. There's a little bit of pushback from the Terrans against him recently. Of course, in Atlanta, getting taken down by Clem and then taken down by Maru here. So, is there something emerging for the Terran? The Zergs need to just get good. Is this just one best of 3 that I'm putting way too much stock on? You decide. Thanks for watching, guys. More StarCraft 2 will be on the way.